Hello, everyone. Today is Monday, March 18th, 2019. My name is Crystal Hill, and I'm here to discuss some epiphanies that I've had this morning. I was interacting with 3 separate people, none of whom know each other, none of whom are associated in any way. And I felt like I was having one conversation with the 3 of them. It was quite interesting. And this one conversation that I felt I was having with 3 separate people is a perfect example of the epiphanies that I reached, which essentially is that we are all one. So one of the 3 people had made a post, and in that post I realized that when we come into any type of opposition with any other person, that it is essentially a facet of ourself. Another person who I was interacting with, the conversation that we were having prompted me to discover that empathy and narcissism are actually 2 sides of the same coin, and that when we recognize someone as being narcissistic, we're actually having compassion for them. The problem lies in when we don't realize that we're feeling compassion for the person. The 3rd person who I was interacting with had actually asked me a question about empathy, and having that conversation helped many of my epiphanies about the whole thing begin to unfold. So what I've discovered essentially is that we're all walking the path together, side by side, not face to face, not in opposition, just in trying to help each other along. When we get frustrated by someone else's actions or behaviors or treatment of us or of others, we are learning something from that. We're growing or gaining new information that we will be able to utilize down the road at some point, either for ourselves or for someone else's benefit. So I want to go into this a little bit more from my personal perspective. And in order to do that, I have to speak a little bit specifically about a journey that I've been on the past few months. I went through the whole twin flame catalyst journey, and this new soul connection that I've encountered, I believe, marks a monumental time in my life during which I'm beginning a brand new cycle of soul contracts. So with that new cycle comes new lessons, new wisdom, new understanding, and new growth. Part of that growth is coming into a whole new, unexplored territory of my inner self. and of the vast cosmic multiverse in which I exist. So, with all that said, coming back down to a more personal and intimate perspective on the whole thing, I realize that every single person in our experience is a facet of ourself. Some we take pleasure in being in company with. Some we find uncomfortable. Some of these facets of ourself are more intense and more impactful than others. But each and every one has something to contribute. And we have something to contribute to them. Essentially, what this spiritual path is all about is closing the gap. Closing the gap of space, of time, and of our consciousness. So, when I reached a monumental moment in my life, just shortly before I encountered this new connection on an external level, I had become aware, very, very consciously and very acutely aware, that everything is one. Every person, every timeline, every cubic of space is all one thing. And it's all happening simultaneously. Every life event, every thought, every feeling, every experience, it's all happening at once. And all we are is a prism of that one thing that is in existence. So, when we become aware of this truth, we begin to close the gap. And what I mean by that is that one thing in which we all exist is what some in the spiritual or the quantum or metaphysical communities call 0 point. 0 point is that point in which you step when you come into this realization and this experience of oneness. So the gap is the space between the 0 point and our awareness of it. So once we embark on the spiritual journey, we're headed toward that 0 point. And in my personal experience, there were actually signposts along the way and certain people and things that acted as milestones in showing me my progress. There was also a lighthouse, a beautiful beam of light that continued to illuminate my path at those certain pivotal moments, to give me validation that I was on the right path and to keep proceeding in the same direction. I could go on a whole different tangent on that, but I'm going to leave that for the moment and just continue with my message today. And that is that the closer we get to this lighthouse or 0 point, the brighter the light becomes, the more intense it becomes, the more deeply we feel it, and the more assurance we have that we are indeed going in the right direction. So when I experienced this moment of oneness, and then within a few days, I encountered this lighthouse, I looked at the light and recognized it as the light that was emanating from within me. And so he essentially was my validation that everything is indeed one. That was a moment that I had been anticipating all of my life, or at least all of my journey since my first initiation when I was about 12 years old. So that moment that I had been anticipating was that moment when we stop being face to face with people and in opposition of people and conflicting with people, to being their companion, walking side by side, and being in oneness and in service and assistance to everyone, knowing that they are all just facets of ourself. So I hope that made sense. I hope that resonates. And anyone who would like to discuss this in more depth, please always feel free to reach out. And I appreciate everyone who follows along with me on my journey. And I wish everyone all the blessings on your journey as well. And thank you so much. This is Crystal Hill saying, have a wonderful day and blessings to everyone. Thank you.